The night air in Chicago was thick and heavy, hot, wet, suffocating. It clung to the city like a curse that refused to lift. It was March, but the cold winds that usually ruled the streets were gone. Midnight had passed, yet Chicago was wide awake. Lights burned late, doors stayed locked, windows stayed shut. Music poured from everywhere. Jazz echoed through crowded halls. Trumpets cried from second-floor windows. Records spun endlessly inside quiet homes. Even people who hated jazz played it anyway, letting the sound crawl through their walls and into the streets. This was not joy. This was fear, because the Axeman had spoken, and the Axeman did not ask. He warned that anyone who did not play jazz would get the axe, and no one doubted him. 5 people were already dead. Chicago had always been loud, but this was different. Jazz wasn't entertainment anymore. It was protection. People believed music could keep death away. Families stayed awake through the night. Radios stayed on until morning. Some sat in their living rooms holding knives, guns, or whatever they could find, staring at doors that felt too thin to keep evil out. Because somewhere in the darkness, the Axeman was moving. Quiet, watching, choosing. The killings began without warning. Victims were attacked in their own homes while they slept. No forced entry, no shattered windows, no screams that neighbors could remember hearing, only blood. The weapon was always an axe, often taken from the victim's own shed or basement. The killer never brought one with him. He came empty-handed and left destruction behind. Most of the victims shared one thing in common. They were Italian immigrants, grocery store owners, shopkeepers, hard-working families trying to survive in a city that already looked down on them. Men who worked from sunrise to night, women who held families together, children who never got the chance to grow up. Some were killed instantly. Others survived the attack, left with shattered skulls, broken memories, and a lifetime of fear. The Axeman did not care who lived or died. At first, the city tried to explain it away. People blamed organized crime. They whispered about the mafia, about old feuds, about secret groups punishing their own. It felt safer to believe it was business, because the truth was far worse. This was not revenge. This was not money. This was chaos. Police were helpless. There were no fingerprints, no solid witnesses, no pattern they could predict. The Axeman didn't steal. He didn't speak. He didn't leave clues. He attacked, vanished, and waited. Each night felt like a countdown. Italian immigrants had come to Chicago chasing opportunity. After slavery was abolished, factories and businesses needed cheap labor. Word traveled across the ocean. Work existed in America. Families arrived with nothing but hope. They worked the hardest jobs, opened small grocery stores, built tight communities in neighborhoods where outsiders were rarely welcome, and now someone was hunting them. Fear spread fast. Men slept with weapons beside their beds. Women prayed until dawn. Children were told not to cry, not to move, not to make a sound. Police patrols increased, but it didn't matter. The Axeman slipped through the city like a shadow. He struck when he wanted and disappeared when he was done. Then everything changed. A letter arrived at a local newspaper. The writer claimed to be the Axeman himself, and the city froze. The letter was chilling, arrogant, mocking, confident. The writer claimed he was not human, that he was something darker, something untouchable. He announced that on a specific night at exactly 12:15 a.m., he would walk the streets of Chicago again. But he made one promise. Anyone playing jazz would be spared. Anyone who wasn't would die. Panic swallowed the city. On the night he named, Chicago transformed. Jazz filled the air. Musicians were hired nonstop. Dance halls overflowed. People who had never listened to jazz played it loudly anyway. Even churches bent tradition and allowed music inside. Silence became deadly. For the first time, an entire city obeyed a killer. That night, no one was killed. The Axeman did not strike. Or maybe he did and chose not to. No one knows. But the message was clear. He had power. After that night, the Axeman disappeared. No more confirmed attacks, No arrests, no confessions, no bodies ever truly linked to him again. The city was left with fear and unanswered questions. Who was he? Why Italians? Why the axe? Why jazz? Some believe he simply stopped. Others think he died. Some say he was arrested for another crime and vanished into prison records. And some believe something worse, that he was never caught, that he walked away, satisfied. O'Day, the Axeman, remains a mystery, a killer who forced an entire city to play music to survive, a shadow that moved through sound and fear, and proof that sometimes the most terrifying monsters don't hide in silence. They hide in the music.